everyone, and welcome to Pet Chats with the APBC. We are the Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors, and we're here to teach you how to be the best owner or pet behaviourist in the world. And today I'm joined by the amazing Elaine Henley. So hi Elaine, it's so nice to have you here.
Hello.
Elaine is a parrot specialist, and I'm so excited to have her here because I was just saying I actually don't know a huge amount about parrots. So I think I'm going to be asking all the questions that hopefully everybody wants to have. And I thought, Elaine, we could start by asking you, what are the main things that people come to you about for their parrots and their behaviour?
Main problems that people seem to have, and they contact me or they're asking on various Facebook groups, are aggression towards them, because nobody likes to be bitten by their pet. The other thing that's always up there is also, parrots being very noisy, making lots of sounds, banging around, flock calling. And then another one is the destruction that a parrot can make when they're living in your home. People get really, really cross about the destruction that they will cause.
Okay. And in terms, most of the people that get parrots, do you think that they come into it with a bit of rose-tinted glasses? Like, where do you think these kind of questions come from? Because I can't imagine, I'd love to have one. I can't imagine getting one because I feel like they're such a specialist creature to have. But do you think that feeds into it a little bit?
I think it does. I think because, we've got so much social media, we've got TikTok, we've got YouTube, Facebook, and a lot of people see the videos of the exceptional parrots, the little parrots that are dancing away, and they're talking a lot, they're looking all cuddly and just cool. And, they think, oh, that would be really nice. A critter that I can interact with in the house. So let's go and get a parrot. And depending what kind of videos they've looked at will probably determine what type they go from. That could be from a budgie right through to a macaw to a grey parrot. And then quite often when they bring them home and they're kind of looking at each other, and the parrot's kind of thinking, right, what are you going to do to entertain me? And the owners are thinking, right, what are you going to do to entertain me? So you can have this relationship imbalance from the very beginning.
Okay.
And then lots of people, owners think, right, let's get into training. I've seen clicker training, or, they'll try target training. And then the parrot just looks at it and gives it, I'm not doing that. Okay. And then they just don't know where to go from there. They might spend, when they first get their parrot, spend oodles and oodles of time with them, and then the novelty begins to wear off. Or they come across the hurdles of they want to go away for the weekend. Well, you can't leave your parrot all weekend. Oh, there's no kennels for parrots.
Yeah, that's so true.
What we're going to do with them?
Yeah.
When I go away, it's a whole military exercise.
Yeah.
I've got professional parrot sitters. I rely on my 2 elder sons. And then I get my lovely PA, Kate and Nicola, to organise the timetable and remind everybody when they're supposed to be here for the parrots.
Wow.
And it's a complete over the top. Whereas if I was going away and I couldn't take my dogs, you phone up the kennel, you drop your dog off, you collect your dog. End of. Not so easy with parrots. And then, you've got lots of competing sort of things going on when you have a parrot. You might have a very tidy house.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, parrots aren't tidy. So there will be a lot of dust, mess, seed, whatever, scattered everywhere, and that can drive people potty, really. So they seem to be sort of the main problems: the aggression, vocalizing a lot, and the destruction, and also that their parrot isn't doing what they think the parrot should be doing, which is entertaining them. So they're the main problems.
And with the destruction and the vocalization and maybe even the aggression, Does that maybe come from a parrot that isn't entertained enough, or that hasn't? I'm just thinking in terms of dogs, which is what I work with. Sometimes you get these issues come up because they're just not getting their needs met. Do you think that's the case with parrots as well? Potentially.
I think so. The first thing I always do is advise on environmental changes.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just making simple environmental changes solves whatever problem, is an issue. But also people don't really understand what parrots do out in the wild. And I'm one of the very few, as you know, that's went to Uganda twice a year and stuff to study grey parrots out in the wild. So you sit back, watch what they're doing, and then think, right, that's what they need in the house. And particularly with chewing, it's not just about foraging for food and accidentally, chewing. They will sit there and chew for fun. It's important for beak maintenance. It's important for enrichment, but it's something that they all do. And, particularly with the grey parrots, it doesn't matter if it's males or females, they will all build nests.
Oh, okay.
So when you bring them into the house, there used to be a couple of old-fashioned ideas of don't give them boxes, don't allow nesting behaviour. And I'm not quite sure why.
Why? Yeah, it's natural. Yeah.
I just never could pinpoint it. And I think they thought it would make them want to breed more, or if it's female parrots, to lay more eggs. But there just didn't seem to be any rational reason for not allowing them to do what they spend a huge amount of time doing out in the wild. So even something simple as giving them a cardboard box in the bottom of their cage can provide hours of amusement. They get to chew, they get to go into it just as they would a tree trunk, and that can relieve some of that need to chew. But the destruction that parrots can do in your house is absolutely incredible.
What's the worst that you've seen?
Well, in my own house, I've had to replace every door facing because they were all chewed up. I then got smart to that, and I put little metal bars across all of the doors at the top so they can't land there and then chew.
Yeah.
So that saved that. Upstairs, I've got books on every corner so that they can't chew the door facings. And yeah,
just
bookcases are no more, and cornicing, things like that. So there's always going to be destruction.
Yeah. Okay.
But the payoff to that is if I just kept them in a cage, yes, my house would be tidier and look better perhaps, but my parrots would be miserable. So they have to be allowed out. There's some people that try to micromanage their parrots when they're out of their cages. For example, they're allowed in their cage, then they're transported to a play stand, but they're not allowed to wander around.
Okay.
As we know with dogs,
try
and micromanage too much and not give them choices,
you're
going to have a kickback with other behavioural problems.
Absolutely.
So you have to be accepting of them up to a point. For example, when we go away, Milo has access to the hall and upstairs. All the doors are closed. He can't get into any of the other rooms, but he can fly around, look out the window, chew up the bookcase. So that gives him a lot to do. If we were away and we just kept him in the cage with maybe an hour or 2 hours out of the cage when the sitters come in, he's going to be miserable.
So that's nice to know that he has that freedom in between. So, okay.
Yeah. And then there's also poor parrots, like my lovely Roy, who spent 3 years locked in a tiny cage in a garage. And so, he doesn't get locked in his cage here. And when we go away, he's out 24/7. So that he never feels, oh my gosh, I'm in here and I'm not going to get back out again. So yes, he will create some destruction, but it's minimizing it. So as I said, I put like Encyclopedia Britannica.
I think I've seen a or a picture, of you doing it. Yes.
all around so that they chew that up. It's that type of thing. After they eat, they love cleaning their beaks. So when you have flock dinners with them and they're sitting at the table with you, you have to be aware that they're going to start cleaning their beak. So if you've got a beautiful, polished table, it's not going to end well.
And do they chew when they do that, or is it what do they look like when they do that? They chew. Yeah.
I've got us in our dining room. We've got a solid oak old table. It came out of Rennie Macintosh house, and all the corners are chewed off.
Oh, but it's like you said, you're accepting of it. You're like, that's what they need, and I can sacrifice that for other things. So yeah.
So they do get a lot of freedom. They need a lot of freedom. They dislike being micromanaged. I see that a lot with my dog clients, particularly with a lot of lockdown puppies, that they were micromanaged because the owners were there all the time. Well, that's the same with a lot of owners who spend a great deal of time in the house with the parrots. They're watching them constantly. Now, if you're being watched constantly, it's going to make you edgy. So again, it's giving them a tiny bit of freedom, but managing that freedom. But they have such, other things that they love chewing on: cardboard boxes. I plant white willow, so they can love stripping that off, and they can chew on that. They've got loads of other chew toys, foraging toys that they can rip up. So it's giving them loads of alternatives. And then they're less likely to chew up your house. But yes, parrot owners do have to parrot-proof their houses and not be too fussed when something does happen. The parrot can't help it. He can't help being a parrot, So we have to give them those choices.
I suppose it's thinking about that if someone's thinking about getting a parrot and they're watching this, then it's something to consider. Where can I put those things into place? Because your house looks beautiful from looking at it, from your background. I've always thought that you look like you have a beautiful home. So there's no, I think when you say, there's going to be mess, you can still take steps to still have a lovely home, but also provide for the parrots as well. One question I had actually that came up, and this might be a really silly question, but do people get their parrots' wings clipped when they get them, or is that quite I imagine that's a very contentious subject, but I actually have no idea, because I'm sure when I worked in a vet many years ago, someone was bringing their parrot in to have their wings clipped. I remember thinking, I didn't have anything to do with it, but I was thinking, like, is that do they?
It's banned in certain countries in Europe now, and in the UK it's frowned upon.
Okay, good. Okay.
I think it was the exotic vets at the Dick in Edinburgh that really started that sort of campaign amongst avian vets of, they need to fly. And when we don't allow them to fly, you're going to have XYZ problems, health and behavioural problems. So it's a lot more out of fashion than it was, thankfully, even 10 years ago.
Okay.
So it's not the first thing people think of. However, there's still some very old-fashioned breeders out there that are doing it before they even sell them. But it is less common now. In America, oh my goodness, it's like we have a parrot, we clip their wings. And one of the top reasons for clipping the wings is to stop them destroying your house.
But then will that leak out in another way? So if someone has maybe got a parrot that they got years ago and it's got its wings clipped, would they maybe see different behaviour issues or more destruction or more aggression or something else because of that, potentially?
The ones who have their wings clipped, historically, are more likely to see aggression problems, caregiver directed aggression problems, mutilation, other stereotypic behaviors, because they're birds, they're meant to fly, and when you take that away from them, you're going to create problems. But in America, it does seem to be very much, we've got a bird, they're allowed in their cage, I will take them to their play stand, they must not be allowed to walk around the ground, and to prevent any issues, we will mutilate their wings.
Suppose maybe it's just not there's things with dogs, aren't there, that haven't necessarily translated. It's different ways, but like you said, it's pleasing to know, and from somebody who didn't know whether that is, I mean, I assumed it wasn't, but you never know, like whether that's standard practice of when you do get a parrot. So it's good to know that.
Another reason why people might cut their wings is because they want to take them outside. Because, you know, there's been some campaigns about how parrots need more exercise. Well, if you're in a cage or a play stand, and you're not allowed to walk around or climb the stairs or anything, well, you're not going to get very much exercise. So one of the things was, if we clip their wings, it's an added benefit, we can take them outside with us. We can get fresh air, enrichment, that sort of thing. But when they're sufficiently frightened, any of these parrots might still take off, except they land badly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They might get themselves in a tree, but they can't flutter back down again.
Wow, okay.
They can get themselves into trouble in lots of other ways from this wing clipping. But would I ever consider it?
No. Yeah.
You know, what I love about birds, Lauren, is, you know, I've always loved birds. You know, we've got so many bird feeders in the garden. I spend a fortune feeding the wildlife around here. And one of the amazing things is, you know, the flying. One of the reasons why I got myself a new camera and better lens and stuff is because I love taking pictures of birds in flight. So it's the emphasis is always on that flight for me. So why would you want to take that away from them? I think a lot of people, we forget that we do have to give them choices. You know, it's like Sparky over there. Cage door is opened. He's in the back of his cage contemplating his navel, I think. But he's got the freedom to come out if he wants or not.
I think that's the best
not
way.
Forcing anything.
Yeah.
It's up to him. And it's his nap time.
I always think with animals, when they have choice, and we've got guinea pigs, and I always think the same with them. They live outside, they've got a hutch, and they have access to the garden. But a lot of the time, they'll just take themselves back. And the same with parrots. It's if they've got somewhere safe, they want to go back to that safe place. And they don't always. I think people panic if you let the cage open, they'll never be able to get them back in. But I suppose that would only happen if they desperately didn't want to go back in. So that's really heartening to know with parrots that it's the same thing as well.
You know, it's any creature, we thrive on having choices. You know, a magnificent human punisher is to deprive you of choice. You know, it's such a punitive way of dealing with any critter, human or non-human, but we have to give them choices. And you know, it's that choice that my parrots have of, in the evening they can hang out with me. When the children were home, they could hang out with the children, they could hang out with my husband. They're not forced to, we're in the TV room, you must come into the TV room. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Similarly, when we're having dinner, they can come and have dinner with us. Oddly enough, they always choose to have dinner with us. On that one. But there's occasions when Roy hasn't appeared for dinner, not very often. It's giving them those choices because they're intelligent creatures. All of the parrots, you know, it doesn't matter which one. So always telling them what to do, always training them, you're going to have a kickback.
Okay.
And I think we can, just as we can do with our dogs, as we know we can do with dogs, can overtrain them.
Yes. Yeah.
That creates issues. But when you try to, no offense against the dog people, but dogs are more stupid than parrots. When you try to do the same thing with the parrots, you're going to get massive kickback.
Okay.
So I always think of the best relationship to have with your parrots is, it's like living with another human in your house. You know, you're not in each other's faces all the time. You're giving each other space. You're giving each other choices. You're coexisting and enjoying each other's company, just simply hanging out.
Oh, that's a really nice way to put it. And we'll start to wrap it up. But one last question just related to it. You mentioned about a lot of vocalization with parrots. Does that link to everything you've spoken about? If they have better enrichment, they're going to vocalize less?
If the parrots have better enrichment, then they're less likely to get distressed. But what we also have to remember is that parrots are very vocal with each other out in the wild. They flock call to each other. So something simple as just saying, before I started this today with you, I said to the parrots what I was doing. And I said, and you're all going to be quiet, aren't you? And there was much hilarity amongst them. But I tell them what I'm going to do. If I'm going out, later on I'm going to feed my son's house rabbits. I'm away to feed Cal's rabbits. And they're like, yeah, okay, you're coming back then. So it's telling them what you're doing and when you're doing it, so that they don't have to start distress calling. Where are you? Where are you? Except it gets louder and louder and louder. A lot of that screaming is because of that. Because we're not, we might be going over to them saying, who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? Oh, you're gorgeous. Oh, look at that beautiful wing. But we're not talking to them as though they're intelligent creatures. I'm away to the shops. I'm working now. I'm away to watch TV. So it's almost getting into that habit of the way that you would talk to a toddler.
Okay.
You're constantly communicating with a toddler what you expect them to do and what you're doing. So that's how you deal with the parrots.
That's so nice to hear. And I imagine it works really well. Do they associate, I'm sitting down to watch TV? Are they like, we'll go over as well?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Or they might make demands. Might particularly love SpongeBob, so they might shout for SpongeBob. Or they might be shouting that it's dinner time. What's for dinner? So you're getting that communication going with them. Some parrots speak more than others. But what is interesting is quite often you hear them muttering, practicing. I don't know if you picked up on Sparky doing that just when we started.
I said, to be honest, they've been so good. They've been so quiet since we've been doing this. So it obviously works.
But he was copying you, not me.
Oh, was he? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Roy particularly loves Anne McBride. Oh, yeah. Anytime he hears her voice, downstairs, as fast as his little legs can take him. But he was from south of England.
Oh, so of course it's going to maybe sound familiar.
It does, yeah, I think it does. But anytime he heard Anne McBride right down the stairs, he comes, which I think Anne loved. Yeah. That Roy would always appear anytime.
Oh, that's lovely.
But no, we forget how intelligent they are. They're incredible, Lauren. But if I ruled the world, they should be out in the wild, not in pets, not in homes.
Oh, wow.
They really should be. They're not good pets. They live for so long. There's such a commitment. They're so time consuming. And a lot of people get attracted to having a parrot because they don't have enough time, they think, for a dog or a cat. If you don't have enough time for a dog, you certainly don't have enough time for dogs. But it's like you're all having to organize your entire life around them. Even when I work remotely, I'm timing things for their nap times.
Oh,
because any later, any earlier, forget it.
Yeah.
And just as you would with a toddler, a kid's going to playgroup, right? I can do this. My parrot will be sleeping about this time. I can do that. So that's kind of the way it is with them.
But it sounds like obviously, you know exactly what you're doing, and you obviously have a seems like very peaceful household, very tidy household, because you put all of these things into place. So I hope that anybody listening, whether they're an owner or a behaviourist or someone interested in parrots, will be able to take away a lot from this and realise that actually there are things that you can put into place while still enjoying your life and making sure they enjoy their lives as well. So is there anything else, any last bits you wanted to add at all?
I think that was great. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And I hope everyone enjoys listening to this. So any questions, you can always add a comment below, and we will see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye.